experience. And okay, well, the very simple example is, do any of you use Facebook? Okay. So what happens when you actually comment something or when you interact there? It won't really refresh the whole page. So earlier what used to happen, when you submit a form, the page used to get refreshed. But nowadays in the web pages, we don't really see that. We only see that particular portion get updated. Okay, so that's the kind of experience we all have today, so which is very rich. So how do we make that accessible? So with that, W3C actually came up with a candidate recommendation called ARIA, which stands for Accessible Rich Internet Applications. And this is a solution to make your rich internet accessible to every users. And why do we actually use ARIA? Since, as I said, today websites are actually increasingly they are using the dynamic, and everyone, even we don't want to see a static websites or static pages. We are not there to just read the pages. Okay, there are so much beyond. We want to interact with the portals, and the interaction happen at a dynamic level. It happens very, very quickly, and even everyone wants to be supportive and helpful to the user. Like even if you go to search engines, okay, when you start typing keyword, and the search engine will actually think and give you some keywords which are relevant to you, what you're looking for. It offers you some suggestions. So it all happens automatically. But if you're a person who are using a screen reader, okay, and how do you get to know there is something updated on the screen? Because if you take either Yahoo search or Google search, when you start typing a keyword, automatically, if you are a visual user, you'll see some suggestions popping down, okay? So how do you know if you're a screen reader user? And since user with disabilities, those who don't know how people with disabilities use the computers, there are technologies which help them to use the computers on internet. Something like screen reader for visually impaired, and alternate input devices for mobility impaired people, and so on. So to enable the rich internet applications to work with assistive technologies, the solution is ARIA. And in the following slides, we see how powerful it is and how we can actually benefit out of it. Now, what ARIA provides? ARIA provides quite a lot of stuff, and we will be seeing it, covering it now. So, one is the ARIA provides something called, if there is a widget. So, today there is a term called widget. Like even if you will be familiar with the term widgets if you are a blogger, or if you use WordPress or anything. Okay, in the sidebar you have a lot of widgets like calendar module. Okay. And a lot of things. So it actually tells you the role of that particular widget, what that widget particularly does. Okay, and then it will also show you the structure of a page. Okay, like when I call about a widget, for example, if there's a button. Okay, but yesterday somebody said people use a lot of graphics to show as a button. So ARIA is actually a solution to make, even if you use a graphic button for the sake of decoration or whatever, you can still mark it as a button using role is equal to button. Okay, that's an ARIA attribute which will so that you can also use whatever graphic you want or whatever decorative thing you want, but yet it is a button. And then when it comes to structure, what do I mean by that? Okay, now we will have navigation, banner, and content info, and sidebars, and all that, filters, and main content, and all of that. So to actually simplify the structure for the use of assistive technologies, you can actually mark those sections by using something called role. There are particular things like you have landmarks. You can mark it for banner, okay, where you have your company's logo and the description, a little bit, whatever you write. And then you can, one of the couple of common landmarks are the search landmark. If you have a search module, search functionality, to enable assistive technology to jump directly there, you also create a landmark there, a search landmark, and then for the navigation. And another thing, like we have seen in one of the presentations, the skip to main content, which will lead users to the content area bypassing several blocks. You can also create a landmark for main content, and then if you have a sidebar, you have complementary landmarks, and in the footer, your content info, like your copyright statement, and all of them will come as the content info. Then it will also tell you the state of widgets. Like yesterday we saw in one of the presentations a clear trip. Okay, if there is a radio button or a checkbox, so by default whether it is checked or unchecked. Okay, you need to know where, because visually you'll see if there is a tick mark in that box, it is checked, and if it is empty, it is unchecked. So you can also provide that information using ARIA attributes. It's called ARIA state is equal to checked or unchecked. Okay, so it actually tells you the status of that, like even the radio button or in your sliders. Then our colleague Shvetang talked about live regions, which is very, very interesting. You have, and it's actually very, very useful. Okay, I will give you an example. And my apologies, since we do not have the internet connection, I can't show you a live demo here. But live regions is such a powerful one. In fact, we at Yahoo, in the mail interface, we also have a module for chat. Like you all use Yahoo Messenger, you can also chat directly from Yahoo Mail. To make that accessible, we have actually used the live regions, and it's beautiful, and it works with keyboard and your screen readers and all. Okay, so live regions, and also another example is that if you go to Yahoo search, when you start typing the keywords, you will get the suggestions, or even from the search widget of your home page, of Yahoo homepage. When you start typing the keywords, it starts popping down the suggestions, and immediately screen reader, if you are a screen reader user, it will start tell you a number of suggestions available. Please use up and down arrow to navigate. So, and then you have a drag and drop functionality. So you can actually come to a widget, and if you want to drag and move it to somewhere else, you can use the space bar, and it tells you where you are now, and while you move, it will tell you where you are, and you can drop it somewhere else. So you can use ARIA for drag and drop. Okay. It will also provide the keyboard access to the objects and events. Okay. Now let's see with different roles in detail. As I said, you have navigation, search, main, and content, and this is how it is coded. So those of you can see the screen, you can see the screenshot of Yahoo homepage, and for my friends who are persons with vision impairment, I'll try my best to explain. So I have a screenshot of Yahoo homepage where I have actually marked the search box, search module, and the content area. So I have used a tool called Juicy Studios, which has got an area checker. So I have using that, I have marked the places where it is actually selected the search module and the content place. And it's also written as role is equal to main, and at the search landmark, it's showing us role is equal to search. So the coding is pretty simple. When you call a div for that particular portion, you can just add the attribute called role is equal to whatever you're using, either search or main or content info, and so on. And then you have tab panel. Again, I have a small screenshot here where you have only the search module of Yahoo homepage, because we nowadays search is actually so much. So you have different tabs for each such, like web search, you can search for images, you can search for videos, you can search for local, and so on. Okay, so it's in a tab view. Tab means even the simple example, those who don't understand what is tab view, if you are using Windows, in some of the dialog box you can press Control Tab. Okay, like some information. The simplest example is if you are formatting a text or formatting a picture, then you will have. I'm talking about Windows 2003 and not Windows 2007. When you press go to Format Picture, in one you have a general options, and then you have size options, and there is also a option called Web. So there are all different panels. So that's called tab view. You can press Control Tab in the Windows to go from one tab to another. So how do we give that experience on the web, on the internet? So we use something called tab panel. So it's called tab list. So we used ARIA to actually identify this as a tab view. And then there's the status, okay, where you want to see the off-screen info, like as I said about the search suggestions, because whatever the screen reader is reading out, it's not displayed on the screen. The number of suggestions available, it doesn't really display on the screen. Okay, so it's basically an off-screen text, and it announces from there. And buttons, as I said. So now let's take an example of a photo module of a particular site. Okay, so since you have hundreds of photographs and you can't really show all of them in one page, so you will use previous and next buttons. Okay, it's also called pagination, or even it occurs for articles also. So when you use some images or something for to convey this previous and next buttons, you will use this attribute called role is equal to button. You can give your source of that image, and you can also add it on all text, of course, and then you can also add this role is equal to button. So even if those who are using the screen reader and they want to navigate through just buttons using the B as an access key, so it actually goes from there. It identifies that button. So without that, if you don't use the either static button or if you don't use this role is equal to button, then there is no way screen reader will actually jump using their access keys. I just talked about live regions to you, and there's also menus and submenus, menu items. So this is again interesting. So today, since we have, like even if you take example of eBay or Amazon, okay, they will be having a lot of categories and subcategories, and they can't use a static navigational list. If they started doing that, then the navigation will go into lines and lines. Okay, so we want to use the menus. Even we have used menus in our Yahoo Mail, like even your reply all, okay, or forward, the actions. Okay, so we use this attributes called menu and menu items, and then alerts. Yeah. Earlier, what used to happen is, for the validation purposes, or if you want to, or if there is, suppose if you are in inbox, and if there are no, okay, if you are in Compose, and you get half of the mail, and if you actually pressed on delete or some option without sending it, then it used to give you a standard dialog box whether do you want to really close it. Okay, but now all of the dialogues, even in the Facebook, okay, when you want to friend somebody, it will actually give you the inline dialog box. Okay, so how do you make that accessible? It's called alert. So we use something called ARIA alert. Using that, it will tell you, it will give you a standard dialog box with the buttons. Then what happens is the focus will actually move from the actual window of that web page, and the focus goes to that particular dialog box. And then list boxes. Yeah, we wanted to in Yahoo Mail, we wanted to give the experience of a mail client like your Outlook. What it means. So in Outlook, what happens is when you're in the list inbox, you can use the up and down arrow keys to select your messages. and then you can press enter to open it and read it, or you can press escape to close it. If you want to delete, you can delete it using delete key, or control R for reply, and so on. So we wanted to give the similar experience. So we use something called list attributes, which is again an ARIA attributes to provide that as a list. So if you actually experience the new Yahoo Mail, you can use all of these options. Okay, you can actually experience that as your Outlook. With that, let me open up for any questions, and we can have some discussion. Let me know if you have any questions. But to conclude, I feel the ARIA is a powerful and very good solution. And now none of the developer could actually have an excuse and say that, okay, I'm using a complex technology, I can't make this site accessible. I don't really agree with any such developers, because you have, and there's a lot of effort by the team and different people. And if you follow the blog of Steve Faulkner of PCLO Group, he is write quite a lot of good information about ARIA. And even last night there is a blog about use of application role.